Hello, friends and family. This is a short presentation on a few of the things I've discovered in my 22 years working in healthcare and 45 years of personal health study, going all the way back to the mid-1970s reading my dad's Prevention magazine. It is my belief that we are designed to be healthy. I encourage you to do your own research on any of the topics presented here and to come to your own conclusions. The following presentation suggests things to add or subtract for improved well-being. First, it's always good to add raw foods. Food in its natural state is more nutritious, low in sugar, higher in fiber, good for the skin, has healthy fats, antioxidants, prebiotics, and probiotics, and can be very delicious. Add fermented foods. Fermented foods improve digestion. Fermented foods restore the proper balance of bacteria in the gut and help with allergies, asthma, irritable bowel syndrome, and other conditions. Raw fermented foods are rich in enzymes. Your body needs enzymes to adequately digest, absorb, and utilize the nutrients in your food. Fermenting food increases vitamin content. Fermented dairy products show an increased level of folic acid, which is critical to producing healthy babies, as well as peroxidine, B vitamins, riboflavin, and biotin, all depending on the strains of bacteria present. Eating fermented foods helps us absorb the nutrients. You can actually ingest huge amounts of nutrients, but unless you absorb them, they're useless to you. When you improve digestion, you improve absorption. And fermented foods build immunity. Other good probiotic foods include kefir, yogurt, tempeh, and one of my favorites, apple cider vinegar, which I use with a good organic olive oil on my salads. Now, something to get out of our diet. Glyphosates. Introduced into the food supply in 1974 by Monsanto, glyphosate is a broad-spectrum systemic herbicide and crop desiccant, which is combined with Roundup Ready crops, otherwise known as GMO crops. In March 2015, the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer classified glyphosate as, quote, probably carcinogenic in humans, end quote, based on epidemiological studies, animal studies, and in vitro studies. Well, just a couple weeks ago now, the parent company of Monsanto, Bayer, just settled for over $10 billion in lawsuits for a group of people who claim to have gotten non-Hodgkin's lymphoma due to Roundup. Now, Bayer settled and paid over $10 billion, but they did not admit fault. They do not have to take their products off the shelf, and they do not have to put on warning labels. So here's where we find glyphosates in a typical meal. Potatoes, bread, beef that is fed corn and soy, GMO soy protein filler in meat, high fructose corn syrup in ketchup and sodas. Crops often desiccated with glyphosate include conventionally grown wheat, oats, flax, beans like garbanzo, kidney, and lima beans, peanuts, lentils, peas, soybeans, corn, rye, buckwheat, millet, canola, sugar beets, and potatoes. The side effects of glyphosate exposure may include the following: kidney disease, antibiotic-resistant bacteria, inflammatory bowel disease, obesity, depression, ADHD, autism, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, ALS, multiple sclerosis, cancer, cachexia, known as muscle wasting, infertility, and developmental malformations. In speaking of these, MIT scientist and researcher Dr. Stephanie Seneff writes, quote, "While glyphosate is obviously not the only environmental toxin to contribute to these diseases and conditions, glyphosate's ability to disrupt the gut bacteria, to impair serum transport of sulfate and phosphate, and to interfere with cytochrome P450 logically progresses to this multitude of diseased states through well-established biological processes." The next thing we need to avoid: pesticides. The following foods should always be grown and eaten organic. Called the Dirty Dozen, they include strawberry, spinach, kale, tomatoes, celery, potatoes, and others. Some foods are not grown with the same amount or maybe very little pesticides. These are called the Clean 15, which can be avocados, cabbage, cantaloupe, onions, sweet corn, which must be non-GMO, sweet peas, and sweet potatoes. Next, something we should all be aware of to add into our day: vitamin D. Symptoms of low vitamin D include feeling tired all the time, low mood, weak bones, getting sick often, unexpected aches and pains. Benefits of vitamin D include decreased inflammation, improved brain function, immunity, mood, and sleep. A team of Indonesian researchers led by Prabowo Raharusana released a working paper showing a significant association between COVID-19 deaths and vitamin D insufficiency or deficiency in a sample of 780 laboratory-confirmed cases of SARS-CoV-2. The key findings are as follows. A majority of COVID-19 cases with vitamin D deficiencies died. The odds of death were higher in older and male cases with pre-existing conditions and lower than normal vitamin D levels. When accounting for the effects of age, sex, and comorbidity, vitamin D status is strongly related to COVID-19 mortality. Irish researchers analyzed European population studies and vitamin D levels, finding countries with high rates of vitamin D deficiency also had higher death rates from COVID-19. Those researchers asked the government to raise the vitamin D recommendations. That was from WebMD Health News, an article titled "More Vitamin D, Lower Risk of Severe COVID-19" by Kathleen Doheny. So how much do we need? U.S. Institute of Medicine suggests that an average daily intake of 400 to 800 IUs, international units, is adequate for 97% of individuals. However, some studies suggest that a higher daily intake of 1,000 to 4,000 IUs is needed to maintain optimal blood levels. The sun is our best natural source of vitamin D. Spending even a short time in the sun can provide the body with all the vitamin D it needs for the day, providing we do not have sunscreen on during that period. According to the Vitamin D Council, this could be 15 minutes for a person with light skin versus a couple of hours for a person with dark skin. So go out midday without sunscreen, expose as much skin as you can modestly do, and then after you get the needed amount, then you can put the sunscreen on if you're going to be out longer. Please note, very few foods contain significant amounts of vitamin D, so people need to ensure they get enough of the vitamin by scheduling regular midday time outdoors. One study indicated that about 42% of the U.S. population is vitamin D deficient. However, this rate rises to 82% in the darkest skinned people and 70% in medium brown skinned people. Supplements probably help, but sunshine is by far the best way to meet this need. Next, we want to look at some neurotoxins that you can easily avoid. Aspartame. This substance is very commonly added to sugar-free products, gum, drinks, etc., and has been linked to migraines, obesity, kidney failure, mental illness, brain tumors, and diabetes. Monosodium glutamate, linked to Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Huntington's disease. MSG is frequently disguised on ingredient labels under alternative names like hydrolyzed or vegetable protein, textured vegetable protein, plant protein extract, sodium caseinate or calcium caseinate, yeast extract, malt extract, bouillon seasoning, spices, and even natural flavoring. Sucralose or Splenda. Aluminum. This type of metal can frequently be found in our drinking water as well as in over-the-counter antacids and vaccines. Mercury. This heavy metal is common in fish products, vaccines, and amalgam fillings, also referred to as silver fillings. Mercury has been identified to be one of the most toxic neurotoxins because it destroys brain tissue. Fluoride, often found in drinking water and toothpaste. Fluoride was utilized to exterminate rats before it was introduced into consumer products. The most common neurotoxin? Sugar. Refined sugar is not as toxic as aspartame, but it can be toxic enough to cause considerable harm to the body when it's consumed on a regular basis. Think about this. When you eat a fruit, for instance, you are not just ingesting sugar and water, but also synergistic components such as minerals, enzymes, covitamin helpers, and fiber. It's these components that help the body effectively metabolize all the nutrients of the fruit. Without the help of these components, sugar cannot be metabolized safely. Think twice and do your research before submitting to any injections. Go beyond the corporate-controlled CDC, FDA, and WHO information. Look at their personnel. There is a virtual revolving door between Big Pharma and the FDA, CDC, and WHO. Besides the toxins listed in this slide, every shot is contaminated with foreign genetic material, be it from chickens, monkeys, dogs, or aborted babies. Personally, after hundreds of hours of research on this topic, I have decided I will never consent to another injection. Next, we want to add in vitamin C. Many benefits have been ascribed to vitamin C, as noted in this slide. Your best sources are whole foods in as close to their natural state as possible. Some of these foods include broccoli, strawberries, oranges, red bell pepper. Vitamin C supplements may also be helpful. Subtract fluoride in all its forms. Fluoride deserves an additional mention here. Personally, when I removed fluoride from my drinking water and stopped eating bromated flour products, I was able to wean myself off of low thyroid medication for hypothyroid. I had taken that for about 12 years. Just look at these toothpaste warnings. If more than used for brushing is accidentally swallowed, get medical help or contact a poison control center right away. Wow. Fortunately, fluoride removal from water is easier than ever these days. I use the Epic water filter, but there are several other good ones out there. Finally, subtract toxic music, shows, videos, and games. In their place, add exercise, the outdoors, going barefoot, prayer, meditation, fasting, and set aside time to read, reflect, and pray daily. All these things can help us to have strong immune systems, or as Antoine Béchamp and others called it, our terrain or the milieu. When we are healthier in body, mind, and soul, our terrain or immune system will be stronger, and most illnesses we experience will pass quickly as our bodies are better able to remove toxins and restore health. On his deathbed, Louis Pasteur is reported to have stated, "The microbe is nothing, the milieu is everything." Béchamp stated, "The primary cause of disease is in us, always in us." In other words, we are not at the mercy of uncontrollable outside invaders, and there is much we can do to ensure our own good health. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you and yours.